So we're talking about mentors and we're talking about people who have given us guidance as alumni volunteers. One of the ones that I really would like to thank is Dr. Joe Palazzolo. One of the things that I think you did that really made me proud and inspires me is before the pandemic, you really lived out visiting chapters in person. You know, you talk about the number of chapters that you went to, and I think that it's probably one of the highest out of any of our Grand Sages that we've ever had as a fraternity.
My experience with Joe was predominantly after he was already elected to the Grand Council back in 2016, I believe it was. But shortly thereafter, while I was a Province Archon, he was making his tour of the country and came through the South Atlantic. So I met up with him and we visited 3 chapters together on his tour of the South. I found him very down to earth, very personable, very knowledgeable about things related to organizations. You know, pleasantly surprised that kind of his career is in organizational development and leadership. So it's no surprise that he has a good perspective on the academic side as well as the practical side of how organizations work and how to get those perspectives all moving in the same direction. That's something that really stuck out with me about meeting him, breaking bread over breakfast and having those heart-to-heart conversations, realizing that there was so much that he had in terms of knowledge of how to further any organization, not just ours, made me feel absolutely confident that our organization was in the right hands.
I see my role as being the #1 cheerleader for the fraternity, going out there and telling the good word about Sigma Pi, making people feel inspired on their campuses. So I made it a point, if I went to visit a chapter, to go visit where they live and visit where they have their chapter meetings. And hopefully I inspired some guys to do a little bit better and be better representatives of the fraternity. Maybe, you know, I guess I can't affect that everywhere I go, but I can try.
Professionally, he's challenged me as someone who works in higher education to have different perspectives. He's asked me to think about what it means to work on a college campus in different ways, what it means to respect the rights of fraternities, what the rights of individuals are, and really push back on different campus-based professionals in ways that maybe I hadn't thought prior to interacting and connecting with Joe.
After I graduated, I was considering getting into law. I didn't know what I wanted to do. He really helped me make a really important connection that sort of helped me get to the next stage. And without just sort of his wise words, without even knowing it, I got a beer with him and the current CEO, John Frost. I got a beer with both of them, and you know, to them it was just a casual beer, but what they said was so impactful on me. It really helped me realize, like, oh, I should go to law school. He did make this huge change in my life. It was sort of that wise influence in my life, but he has no idea. Tug's a great guy. You know, I can't say enough positive things about him.
Joe Palazzolo, I met him at a mid-year conference in St. Louis. We actually served on the foundation board together. And we lovingly know him as Tugboat. That's his nickname. When he got his doctorate, I was one of the first ones to call him up and congratulate him and ask him if I needed to call him Dr. Palazzolo going forward. And he said, no, Tug will do. And I'm so proud of what he's done in the last 4 years. He inherited a project that is started by Steve Lawler, a past Grand Sage, who I immensely look up to. I think Joe has followed in his footsteps, but to the beat of his own drum. And I'm so proud of Joe. I'm so thankful for what he's done in the last 4 years. He's had to make some tremendously difficult decisions, staff-wise, organizational-wise, and for our future. And we had the right man at the right time during COVID. So Joe, you know, thank you very much. I appreciate everything you've done for Sigma Pi and for everything I know you'll continue to do. Thank you, brother.
I'm just a fraternity guy. That happens to be the Grand Sage. That's what I tell people. It's been a lot of fun. It's been incredibly eye-opening. I've enjoyed helping steer the strategy of the fraternity, particularly through the pandemic, because we needed some stability, and we've needed stability for a while, and we have it now. My hope is that the next generation of Grand Council members really focus on that sustainability issue. My hope is that all of those thousands of guys that I got to meet on their home turf remember and come back to their homecoming events and their Founders Day events and their alumni events. My legacy, I don't think about it, but if it could be anything, hopefully it's that 1 or 2 or 1,000 random guys that met the Grand Sage that would have not met the Grand Sage. Maybe they remember that when they're a little bit older, and maybe they go back and meet the next generation of their chapter. That would be more than enough for me, and I would be really thrilled with that.
I think a lot of it is paying it forward. Something that I learned from Grand Sage Joe Palazzolo was figure out what you can do every day to make the life of a Sigma Pi brother better. So when I go to bed at night, I figure out, what did I do today, whether it's something small or something big, whether it could be talking to someone on the phone as they're working through, figuring out what internship to take for the summer, or if they want to run for Grand Council, figuring out what it is that they want to do, help guide, help mentor them through the process. So I take that to heart, and every day I look and reflect, did I do something to make the life of another Sigma Pi brother better today?
I am looking forward to the day when I'm not on the Grand Council anymore, because at that point I will go back to being a chapter advisor and just spending most of my fraternity volunteering efforts on Monmouth University and Delta Beta chapter, and then some work around New Jersey.
To Grand Sage Palazzolo, and I've told you this in person as well, there's no one in the fraternity that I would want to serve with more than Joe Palazzolo. And it really comes down to that.